Hey everybody, welcome to 30 Ways to Happy Days. I'm Alana Yvonne with Truly Great Life, and we are on way number 13, lucky 13. So, as I've mentioned in some of the earlier recordings, please be sure to check out ways number 1 and 2 if you haven't already, because they are going to give you the background, the foundation for the rest of these 30 ways. So, moving in. Way number 13 is the character strength of teamwork. Teamwork, working well as part of a team. This idea of being part of a team, valuing the team, having that kind of sense of loyalty when you belong to a certain group or group effort or team, and a sense of social responsibility, and basically this strength is where you're contributing to the effort of a group, okay? So definitely a very social kind of strength in the sense that it is all about being and doing with other people for the benefit of other people, for a goal that is identified as valuable by a team or a group, okay? Another way that we can look at teamwork is you play well with others as a member of that group, okay? You do your share, right? You share the load. And to those teams and groups that you identify with, you have a sense of loyalty. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper. One of the first things that may come to mind when you hear teamwork, especially if you're a student or if you work with or have kids, is sports or classroom projects, right? So starting with sports, that's an easy one, where a lot of team sports, you are going to be using that muscle, that strength of teamwork, where there's a clear goal that your team is trying to achieve, depending on what the sport is, and you will do your job and contribute to that effort that is required for the team to do. Right? This seems obvious. So whether it's on like a basketball team or a dance team or a skating team or lacrosse or even a cross-country running team, like with a relay, whatever it is, right? If you have participated or participate in a team sport, you know what teamwork is. And you know when it's not being demonstrated if someone isn't kind of holding up their own or not really contributing to that effort or doing what you know that they might be capable of doing. And so, the motivation for whatever that end goal is gets to be there when you're using teamwork, right? So with sports, sports that has a big, or not even a big, but if you're watching the sport, if it's a spectator sport, whether it's you're supporting, the local little league or, a professional sport, one could maybe make the argument that you are using your strength of teamwork by being a supportive fan, right? And cheering them on. You're, there contributing to the effort of that verbal support or showing up. And there's like a symbiosis there maybe. So you can say, even if you don't participate in the sport itself, but you're there as a fan, you are also using your character strength of teamwork in a way, right? Because you're doing your share, maybe not in an obvious direct way, but in a supportive, like different kind of way, like an energetic way, like a support, it's a different way to think of teamwork. And there's a lot of, ritual and belief around that role as well, where someone is, supporting the team and all that stuff. So I just happened to see the movie 80 for Brady. So, you can make the argument that those ladies were, totally using their muscle of teamwork, even though they obviously weren't playing football. Okay, so that's just one example. Think about where you are in a team situation in your life. If you're in a sport, then that might come to mind really quickly. Now, let's say at work or at school, you're also in situations, there's a lot of emphasis on the value, of teamwork, of working well in groups, of accomplishing different goals, scholastic goals, whether it's a report or a presentation or some other kind of project, or you're building something together. So teamwork, what do they say? Teamwork makes the dream work, right? There are many things that will not get done if it's just one person. There are things that we can do on our own, but the whole is greater than the sum of the parts it's made of, because there's an amazing quality of what can be accomplished when you bring people together for a goal that everyone is aligned with and subscribes to, and works together and plays nicely with each other, respectfully, energetically, happily, ideally, I guess, to come up with whatever that, towards that success. Okay, so teamwork is a great way to make your day happier, because it's connecting you to a goal that hopefully you identify with, right? You're working on a problem that you identified, or an assignment, or a game, or whatever it is, but hopefully it has some value for you, so you're taking action when you are using your strength of teamwork towards that ultimate goal. So there's a sense of agency, there's a sense of involvement, there's a sense of I matter, there's a sense of I'm needed. Those are all great things to help boost your day if you're having, a day that is not so happy, let's say. Now, the other thing, is that it's connecting you with other people. So it's helping you with that goal that you're trying to achieve, but it's also connecting you to others. And we have, this loneliness epidemic here, at least in the States, and possibly elsewhere in the world, but being able to have those connections with other people, especially when it's working towards a common goal, can boost up your sense of, connection, the relationships, your positive emotions. So teamwork is a strength. Again, maybe you don't think of yourself as a great team player. Maybe you really gravitate to doing your own kind of thing. You're independent or lone wolf or whatever it is. But if there's an opportunity to maybe do something with someone else towards a goal, that's where your teamwork might, you might get to exercise it then. So think of ways, even if, let's say, you're a solopreneur, or you're not working, or you're whatever it is, where you're not connecting with other people towards a goal, where are there areas in your life that there is something that you value that can be worked on with a group? So for example, we talked about work, obviously teamwork is important in a lot of work situations where you're either managing people, being managed, working together as a team, you have a task, being able to kind of see the value in your teammates, in the people you're working with, to respect and understand what they bring to the table, to bring what you have to the table, to sign on and agree and kind of emotionally buy into what it is that's trying to be achieved here. You're using that muscle, you're using that strength of teamwork, okay? So let's say you're not in a work situation or a school situation. Where else can you use your character strength of teamwork? So one example would be, let's say you're in a neighborhood and you are part of a neighborhood watch group, or there's a local group of people who, are trying to keep the sidewalks clean, or have a community garden, or think about things in your situation, in your life, where you can and would be interested to use that teamwork muscle, which you do have, even if it's not one you're using regularly. Okay? Again, because of the two things I mentioned, you're connecting to a goal that matters to you by working with others, where you're connecting with other people. So teamwork is really, it's about achieving, we have teamwork to achieve a goal, whether that's for play or for work or for fun or for sport, whatever it is. So find something right now in your life that you're either already part of a team, or you could be part of a team, okay? Where it matters to you, you value it, and you would like to be working with people who are working on the same goal. Okay? So there's definitely got to be something, I'm sure, that you can think of that would be something that boosts you up to be involved in some way. Okay. Now, the other aspect, if we want to go really micro, okay, is you can say that teamwork is used in relationships. Teamwork is used in families. Teamwork is a character strength that you can bring into a relationship with a sibling, a parent, a significant other, family member, friends, right? Because you can look at it as we have this goal, let's say harmonious long-term relationship, right? Whether it's marriage or a committed relationship or whatever. Let's say you're in a romantic relationship that you would love to see go for the long term, whatever that means to you, okay? So when you're working as a team, right, you will value and respect what the other person has to say or think about something. You maybe make decisions together jointly because it impacts both of you, or if it's a family, all of you. And so, but there's this sense of using, this muscle of teamwork, like we work together, we care about each other. The goal here is to have, let's say, a harmonious relationship for the long term to support and be loyal to each other. Okay, so when you look at relationships through the lens of teamwork, one thing that becomes obvious, at least to me, let me know what you think, is you can't always get what you want. Right? What's one of the first things we learn with teamwork, whether we're on it's a sport or a competition or a hobby group that you're part of or a school thing, is like there's compromise, because it isn't your way or the highway, right? There's going to be compromise. You're going to have to make concessions. You're going to have to withdraw at some point, obviously depending on the context of what you're thinking about for this example, but it can't always be just what you want. So when we say, take one for the team, or you're not being a team player, and we're talking about relationships, it's because everyone has their opinion of what it is, why it is, what they value in it. There's more than one way to accomplish a goal. And so when things maybe get a little testy in our relationships, it can be helpful to step back and say, okay, what problem or what goal do we have here? And then think about, okay, how could I bring, in addition to other ways that we've talked about, we'll talk about, but how can I bring in teamwork? How can I be a team player here? Right? So it's almost like you get to ask, is this the hill I want to die on? Right? Is this something that either is so threatening to your ego, or it violates a value maybe that you have that you're not willing to? Then okay, but there can still be a discussion there, right? There can still be a sense of, I'm loyal to you, I'm loyal to our relationship, we really disagree on this, let's have a conversation. Now, if you don't have that same goal, if you don't want to achieve success as a group, whatever that is, I can let this relationship go, or I don't really care if I'm estranged from you because we disagree so much, then you may not be willing to be a team player as much because you don't value it as much, or that goal or definition of success in the relationship is not something you're willing to be a team player for. Now, I'm not talking about to totally negate things that you value highly. I'm not saying to be, what's the term? Like a doormat and let anyone walk all over you and it's, someone's way and not yours. But if in a relationship we have that same end goal, okay, whether it's a friendship or a relationship that's intimate or a family, if we have that end goal of sticking together, let's say, and being loyal till the end of time, till the end of our days, if that's a goal, how can you bring teamwork into this? How can you be a better team player? Again, not to negate, not to defer all the time, right? And so this is where, let's say, someone who has naturally is what we would call a team player, if you're overusing that, maybe then you're deferring all the time to someone else, whatever everyone else wants. So there's keeping the peace and there's, making your say, but think about in your relationships, professional, personal, whatever, where are you maybe overusing your character strength of teamwork for the sake of not wanting conflict, but then you're not necessarily advocating for yourself and what you want in that relationship. Okay, so it's interesting to think about it, in this micro level, because it's more obvious to think about teamwork as like, okay, the sports or the work, okay? But when we think about relationships and we think about how relationships is one of the important, elements that we talked about towards a thriving life, towards a flourishing life, right? So within that framework of relationships, how can teamwork be something that you bring to the table in a way that works for you and works for the whatever team you want to call it, whatever team you're playing on, whatever team you're with. Let's use the word tribe. Okay, tribe is this whole word now. What tribe? What's your tribe? Who's your tribe? Who do you, okay, so how does this work? Your sense of, being loyal to a group of people who have a certain goal, a certain, desired outcome, a certain definition of success. And then I would throw out there, like, how much grace, how much space, how much openness can you give to the fact that there are other teams out there that you may not agree with, and they feel just as strongly as you about that loyalty, right? So you can, teamwork is related to this idea of citizenship. Teamwork's related to this idea of patriotism. That's become like an interesting word in our culture. So where do you feel that you are a total team player, but it stops there because of other teams that you don't agree with? Now, can we zoom it out? Can we go macro? Can we go global? If you want to get spiritual about it, can you, we're all part of the same family, all right? So how big can you take this idea of teamwork? And what team are we really on, right? Team humanity. I don't know. I'm just coming up with this as I'm sharing this idea of teamwork can go very, very micro, and this is my tribe, and and there's a place for that, of course, right? There's a place for that. But then can we zoom out? And how does your sense of teamwork, where are you exercising that muscle? Maybe not in a positive way, maybe in a judgmental way, maybe in a way that excludes instead of includes, maybe in a way that is not helpful, right? With any of these ways, you want to think about, how is it helping me in the short term, in the long term, in the ways that matter to me, in the things that I value? How is this maybe hurting me? How is this maybe limiting me? How is this maybe getting in the way of me achieving whatever I ultimately want for my truly great life, right? For my sense of flourishing and thriving and like having, doing my best to live in a way that is important and matters and is helpful and expansive and connected and authentic, right? Whatever word you want to use. So teamwork is interesting. Teamwork is interesting. It is related to a sense and a virtue of justice, right? It is related to that. Again, I mentioned to the sense of citizenship. It is related to that sense of loyalty. We have a lot of tribes in this country and throughout the world. There's a lot of tribalism. So knowing that this maybe is how people are wired, right, to seek that which they identify as the team, as the group, right, and to be loyal to that group, how can we do that in a way that doesn't necessarily hurt a different tribe, a different team, a different group? If we're talking sports, obviously there's the competition there. Okay, if we're talking countries, is there the competition there? If we're talking neighborhoods, if we're talking states, if we're talking companies. So there's a place, obviously, for competition. There's a place for teamwork as a way that does maybe divide. But when it comes to us having happier days, think about teamwork as something that you can use to, yes, be connected maybe to that team, right? So, but then there's also that sense of, at the end of the game and everyone's like maybe shaking hands or high-fiving, like there's that professional sense of like, teamwork and being a good team player, being a good team player even when you don't win. So I'm just posing this as things to think about, for you to chew on, kind of see what resonates, what doesn't. If it doesn't resonate, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Okay, but teamwork is an interesting one. Okay, so if for you being part of that team is really just about your friends that you connect with that day, and you have the goal of, I don't know, starting a book club, you couldn't say that you're using that sense of, that strength of teamwork. If you're in a sport, if you want to join a sport. All right, so you see where I'm going with this. But I guess what I want to just share is, think about who and what you're loyal to. Think about who and what you're willing to go to bat for. Think about who and what you are willing to align with, and why that's important to you, and how that helps you feel more connected, more happy. And if it can be in a way that doesn't detract from someone else, because again, these character strengths, in the purest sense, they do not hurt anybody else. They don't take away from anyone else, right? They're things we all have. So how does it help you empathize with someone who is different or thinks differently if you know that maybe you both share this really same, let's say you're both very high on teamwork as a character strength? Can that open a door for some empathy? You may not agree with how they express it or for what. But if we're looking, at again, this language of strengths as a way to make connections, as a way to be open, as a way to be happier, we get to also understand that because this is true for everybody, ideally we are doing this in a way that benefits everyone. Okay, that benefits and doesn't hurt. It doesn't take away. Maybe a lofty order, right? But ideally, find a way for you to use teamwork in a way that, other than like a playfulness with a sport, let's say, or, the nature of a work project where there is a competition. It is a competition, and that's fine. But appreciating that value of teamwork, bringing it into your life, in your relationships, exercising it, right? Where can you be part of a team, be part of a greater whole? And if you don't feel connected, okay, you don't feel like you're part of a team, or you're part of a tribe, or you're part of a group that you really value and it gives, some sense of meaning. Because again, by definition, when you're using teamwork, we're connecting to something outside of ourselves, even if it's for a short-term project at work or school. But there is a sense of something greater when we get to be part of a team or a group and help, nudge the efforts towards that success, towards that goal. And I would just invite you to think about how this can make your day a little bit happier. How can we be a team player at home, at work, at school, in our communities, and recognize when others are also trying to be team players. Okay, so that's it for today. Teamwork, go team! And see you next time for way number 14.